All right, Nicole. Oh my goodness. I am so excited for you to be on here today talking to us. I want to start with your story because I just read everybody your bio. We're obsessed. We're also interested in figuring out how you went from being an attorney to now the Enneagram. So I'm going to give you some time to just tell us all the things about you.
Sure. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you. And it is kind of a topsy-turvy story, but everybody has one. It's just the version. And I think we moms definitely have a path that is not linear. So as we'll hop into the Enneagram shortly, but I'll give you a little surprise buster. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. So I was always the achiever, and that'll make more sense as we talk about it in a little bit. But, went to high achieving colleges and university for my graduate degree. Always did all the things, checked the boxes, played the path, almost a little bit of a pleaser, right? My mom thought I'd make a great attorney. So I became an attorney and I checked all the boxes, and it was okay work. I didn't love it. I love the interaction with people, and I was really good at that. Even from being a first year associate, I had a book of business, which is really unusual. First year associates are generally, head down, cranking away, billing hours. And you don't build business till you'll get business to your later on, 6-7 years into your career. But I love people and connected with people, and I'm a professional problem solver. So I would hear someone's issue and I'm like, oh, we can help you with that. Even if it wasn't me, I knew someone at the firm could. So I would bring in the business. And that was not knowing all about the Enneagram then, but my superpower was actually connecting with people and always seeing the path forward. And therefore, with that, I worked up to hours before I had my first son, and I had 3 boys in 3.5 years, and it was it was wild. And I love to be busy, I guess, and it was great. But I hung the white flag, and I went a little bit in the consulting direction with them because I still had the realities of helping to provide for my family, right? So as we moms wear many, many roles, caregiver and breadwinner were 2 of them. And though I was the primary caregiver, I still had to be a contributing breadwinner. So that didn't mean I could just hang up the hat and be done, nor did I necessarily want to. A big part of my self-identity was in my professional roles. And therefore, as kind of a side gig, I was doing consulting and moving more from practicing law into business consulting, because that professional problem solver, oftentimes people see something in you that you don't see in yourself, and clients started to hire me for that. So I had those opportunities, and then 2013 I started an organization, a social for-profit organization called Women in the Mix, that was dedicated to the proposition that we as women are not balancing acts, we're not scales, but we're living a mix of all our different roles: mom, professional, community member, daughter, all of those different things. And no 2 days, let alone years, look the same, right? And this whole concept, if we can embrace the mix and support one another in the mix, it's better for everyone. So from Women in the Mix, actually people started hiring me to coach them on what a successful mix looks like what feels good, kind of saying goodbye to busy and hello to productive, aligned mix. And so from there is when I learned Enneagram, and I just loved it, right? Because it's this roadmap, this sensical, rational, the more you do it, right? You'll learn a little bit today, but honestly, it's, the more you do it, the better and better it gets in providing less stress, higher productivity, overall, life satisfaction. And for a 3 who wants an efficient and effective way of life through, it was genius. And therefore it lent itself when I was doing all this coaching to make that one of my primary tools. So here we are.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm smiling because I too had 3 kids in a little under 3 years. Not 3 boys though. If I had 3 boys, I had 2 girls and a boy. And it was it's a lot, but I'm still recovering. I feel like, and I love how you talk about everything's a mix, because that is like the perfect way to describe it. No 2 hours look the same. No 2 days look the same. And to be honest, the first few years of becoming transitioning to being college student, doing whatever I want to, married, and now with kids, I struggled because I wanted this system. I wanted this formula, this perfect schedule. And that, every single day was different. And I would beat myself up internally being like, Stephanie, why can't you just have 2 days look the same? And so I love that you embrace that, because Oh my gosh, I feel like people listening on the other end, just hearing that alone, if they stop listening to the podcast right now, which PS you shouldn't, but if they did, I feel like that already is so much gold in giving people peace to just be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. And so I love that.
You just hit the nail on the head, is that we expect so much from ourselves. And prior to children, we had a lot of control in most aspects of our life. Once we, get children in the mix, right? That control, that predictability, that certainty, there's other little people, whether they're babies, toddlers, school-age children, or for me, teenagers at this point. Oh, your control is an illusion. And they really point that out for you. And so when we beat ourselves up, like why I can't have the same schedule from one day to the next, it's because we don't have the control. And therefore, by embracing the messy mix, right? The messy years of raising kids, but pulling out the pieces that work the best, that's the efficiency guru in me, pulling out the pieces that work the best, we can, align ourselves for, again, just less frustration, less disappointment. And then realizing where I am, where my kids are older now, I'm like, oh, you want to hang out with me? Oh, that's perfect, right? Because, we were looking desperately for a couple hours when they're little. And I was on with a client today. She's got a 1-year-old and twin 3-year-olds, right? And she's like, I'm sorry if they speak in the background. I'm like, don't be sorry. I'm like, I'm glad they're safe. Like, you're in those years where if you can't see them, they could be getting, into trouble. Mine are in the years where when I don't see them, the potential problems are much bigger, but I can't leave them alone, right? And
right.
So we as women do such a tribute to each other in supporting that, right? No judgment here. How do we best get through the mix?
Oh, I love that. Amen. Oh my goodness. This is making me even so much more excited for what we're talking about. And I was already stoked. So I'm going to give you the floor and I'm going to pop in with so many questions because I know I've got a ton. And I am just so excited to learn what you have to teach us today about the Enneagram.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So if you all could see Stephanie's face, she's got this big, big smile and has been laughing since we've gotten to know each other. And so that was a big hint to me as we run through, as I teach you a little bit, and you'll see why it is so useful in interactions with new friends and acquaintances, let alone the relationships that matter most personally and professionally for us. So let me start from kind of the 30,000 foot view. Enneagram. What is Enneagram, right? Enneagram is ENNEA, which is the number 9 in Greek. So I've diffused that, and gram is a chart. So it's a chart or graph with 9 points. And we'll get into those 9 points in a moment. You will oftentimes hear it referred to as a personality guideline or whatnot. I always encourage people to throw that aside because personality is how we show up on the outside. I like to refer to it as a motivational tool. It tells us what's going on the inside for someone, because 2 people can show up the same or 10 people can show up the same, but on the inside, what's happening, and then you'll understand why your communications or your best of intentions just fell completely flat. And you don't have a clue why. If you get a clue into what the internal motivations are, all of a sudden this beautiful tool becomes so powerful to you. So going back, Enneagram is a 9-part chart. It has 9 different motivational types. They each have a name. They each have amazing superpowers. They each have cringeworthy blind spots that you're like, oh, and that's where people usually recognize themselves. There are a lovely, and we can share with your following, there are some really quick and easy free assessments available online. And we can share 1 or 2 that I use. They'll take you 5-10 minutes at the most. They're just a starting place. No one should embrace that as the right answer because we as humans can't help ourselves. We're not purely objective. We answer with shoulds and coulds and what I wish I was. So those aren't always the best place to hold on to them, but they're a good starting place. And if that makes you start reading about it, it's fantastic. But it's truly a personal study. It is an opportunity to know yourself. So that would be the first thing we would teach is that beautiful self-awareness. And why does self-awareness matter? Because everything comes from what you're thinking and feeling. Everything you do, every role, mom, sister, daughter, colleague, entrepreneur, business owner, partner, spouse, every single thing comes to how you feel and think inside. So if you're not coming from a positive, skilled place of your best attributes and able to recognize when you go into kind of the cringeworthy parts. The idea is not to stay there for a whole vacation, right? Or take 6 months abroad there. The idea is to recognize it, name it in yourself, and go back to your most skilled version, right? And that's why Enneagram is so beautiful. And so if it's okay, I'll run through just the 9 different types super quick.
Yeah.
And then
so
we can
good.
do a few questions and get into the second lesson about other awareness. Okay.
Oh, for sure.
So the first thing is there. So I said 9 points. So the first one is called, and Stephanie and I are both married to them. So the first one is called the improver, or the perfect, right, and correct person, the perfectionist. They have very strong ideals. It's like an internal sense of the way, you should see Stephanie's eyes, the way the world should be. And the standard they hold themselves to is so high. They are so amazing. They bring everybody up around them. They bring the level of work to the top, but they, on the cringeworthy side, are hypercritical, are really hard on themselves and therefore sometimes on others. For a quick example, my husband is a 1. He's an attorney like I am. He's fantastic. He's who you want to hire, right? However, he's not who your children want to ask for help for homework in kindergarten, right? He only has one standard of excellence. There's no wiggle room. I'm always like, get out the grading metric. What are they giving scores on? You know, and make sure you hit each part. That's the efficiency person in a 3. But in a 1, you put your best foot forward. If you don't do it well, don't do it at all. It's kind of a black and white thinking. So, you know, in these challenging times that we're in the world, they're hypercritical on themselves. Are they doing this well for them and society? Okay, so number 2 on the Enneagram, and we're moving to the right. If you saw a chart, maybe Stephanie can share one with my information, is the 1 is just, let's say the 1 o'clock position. The 2 is just before the 3 o'clock position. So we're moving in that direction. I won't keep it that analogy, but we're moving in that direction. And so the 2 is called the helper or the caregiver. And this is think about Oprah on steroids, or, well, Brene Brown is actually a 1, but I would say Brene Brown on steroids. She seems like she cares so much, but she actually has such high standards, and she's a self-proclaimed 1, and she'll share how it's so self-empowering of how to be the best version, most skilled version of yourself with others. So the 2 is the helper. They're all about people. They get energy from connection with others. They love the relationship, a new friendship, an old friendship, a sibling, a parent, a child, right? They give. And so their Achilles heel is they expect back from you. They want you to give and recognize them. They want to be needed and appreciated. Okay, so here's a good point to realize: the odd numbers are rational, objective, more analytical. 1, 3, 5, 7. The even numbers are more emotional based. 2, 4, 6, 8. The top of the Enneagram, when we get there in a few minutes, the 9, is actually a mix of the 2. They're kind of more in their best place. They are more equally rational, analytical, and emotional. Okay, so expect big emotions from your even number. So the 2 has big emotions. All right, moving to the 3. I'm a 3. A 3 is called the achiever or the performer. They have, here's going to be a real big surprise, lots of energy. They have lots of energy to do lots of things always. My husband will joke around that as a 3, I only have 2 speeds, conscious and unconscious. I'm on or I'm off. I'm either sleeping or I'm doing, right? We have been accused of being human doings versus human beings, but they are the people who get stuff done, always. They see around corners. They see the most efficient and effective path. They can pivot like nobody's business. They're so adaptable. So in these challenging times, if plan A doesn't work, there's plan B. If plan B is not good, they see C and D and E all the way down. Okay, so that is their specialty, but why that sometimes is a problem is because they move quickly. They're quick to adapt. Is sometimes they leave others behind. They're moving so quickly, they don't get buy-in. They're moving so quickly, they sometimes forget to appreciate the present, right? They miss what's right in front of them because they're so busy planning and moving things along. You always want a 3 in your team because they'll get it done, and they'll get it done, you know, before schedule, under budget and before schedule. But sometimes you got to reel them back because they forget to say, how are you? And really wait for the answer. Not everybody's there. Okay, number 4, this is the individualist or the romantic. This is the one on the Enneagram that is, remember, really emotional. They want to be special and unique in this life. And they generally are in some way. They're aesthetically gifted generally, or musical, artistic. They're generally creators. They're just kind of amazing that way. Their Achilles heel is that because 80+% of life is typical, paying bills, taking care of children, dealing with doctors or school, or, it's just not special. It's just busy, right? It's the stuff that makes going to the bank, pay, all those kinds of things. Doesn't feel special. They can get really down on that and not do it and feel kind of melodramatic, like, woe is me, this is terrible. I'm only above here in the special. If you do an Enneagram course, and I love 4s because they do make everything more beautiful, they really do. But if you do an Enneagram course, they think they're the only 4 in the room because it has to be that special. There's no other 4s, right? Or no other 4s like me, because the individualist, it's so important to be unique and different. Number 5, okay, back to analytical. Okay, the investigator. I always call this the smartest person in the room. They listen, they take in information, data, everything, research. They're usually amazing at sifting through. They don't share a lot early or often, but when they do, you want to listen because it is the most well thought out decision. However, they sometimes can lack personal touch or connection because they're so busy gathering data, they kind of step back. So they can seem cold or impersonal or disinterested. It's not really true, but it's an opportunity for them to see that about themselves. So being married to one or being parented by one, they can seem really removed. And so that would be a bit of Achilles heel for them. All right, we only have 3 or 4 more. Number 6 is safety and security, the loyalist. They're all about, think about grandma on steroids. They see every opportunity it can go wrong, but they are the most loyal and determined and faithful in their relationship and friendship. Again, they can see where things go wrong. I was teaching a board, Enneagram, for their group communication skills and being able to work together. And a perfect example is I do a little exercise where I put a bottle of water on the table and I have each number move it and talk about their motivation. And we'll review that at the end. But for the 6, it's usually like finding the most secure and safe space on the table so that it won't spill or do anything. And I had a 6 at this board meeting, and he looked at me and he said, I wouldn't even have a water bottle on the table. There are electronics. Right, so
you're like, thank you for proving my point.
Yes, right, because I'm not a 6. I was like, if water bottles on table, it's away from things, it seems fine, right? He's like, no go, right? So 6s see the potential pitfalls. They sometimes get in trouble because they can be seen as plan killers because they see every potential pitfall, even if it's not likely to happen. So this time in history, this time we're living right now, this is hard for them because there's so much to worry about. Okay, 7s. Anybody know a 7? Well,
oh my gosh, me.
Our beautiful host is a 7. And I kind of knew that from the way she shared with me. So 7s are the life enthusiasts. They love life. They are generally high energy. They're optimists by nature. They love to try new things, experiences. Never a dull moment, love novelty, and uncertainty is fine because it's part of the adventure. They're great at starting things. Okay, so now the other side, they're not always great at finishing things because starting is really fun. The messy middle is kind of boring. Sometimes they avoid things that are uncomfortable or difficult. They can sometimes, like there was a fun story that was saying a 7 would see a potential shark in the water and they'll say to themselves, dolphin with big fins, right? As opposed to, right, oh, this could be really bad. So they're going to reframe to avoid the negative. They also can be seen as shiny object chasers. Like, I've got a big idea today, and we'll talk to them tomorrow. I've got a big idea today because the ideas are exciting and they give so much energy and there's so much potential and possibility. I parent 7s. It's an adventure because they're always on an adventure. Not great chore doers because those are not fun, but Yeah, you should see 70 days. So it's an adventure, but they're fantastic. You always want one because they live truly in the present. They're not, in this mindfulness world we're living in, we're all trying to be more present. They naturally are present to what is desirable. Okay, 2 more. Number 8. We went from the lighthearted, life-loving 7 to the strong, independent challenger. The 8 is all determined by their motivation is not to be controlled, to be in control, to be strong and independent. They bring a sense of calm to others, but at the same time, they can bring a sense of just utter control or dismissing because they are so sure of their position. Their opinion to them is black and white, right? They're right, you're wrong. It's not because they lack nuance. It's just how they see it at first. So when you interact with an 8, you want to give the benefit of the doubt and be like, whoo, that was a strong opinion. But take a breath and even say to them, hey, have you thought about this potential? Have you thought about maybe doing it this way? And all of a sudden you'll see that it doesn't come from a place of uncaring or dismissing. It actually just comes from a place that they are motivated by strength, confidence, and independence. On the same time, in these challenging times, they're fantastic because they bring everybody up. They make everybody feel more safe because they are in control. All right, last one, top of the Enneagram. Remember that circle? And I said put one right at the top where the noon or 12 o'clock is? That is the 9. That is our beautiful peacemaker. The 9 brings peace and calm and understanding to every situation. They sense what the group needs and they make it work. They sometimes lose themselves because they're so attuned to the group that if you ask a 9, how are you? They oftentimes won't know. They seriously don't know. They're so busy tending the group that they just merge right into it. But without a 9, we'd always be in conflict because the 9s sense what everyone needs. So I ran you through them all. No one is better than other. They're all neutral in the need that they bring wonderful things and they're challenged at moments. Where someone thrives is because they are a skilled, knowing version of themselves, and therefore they bring that best self out to others, as opposed to the cringy, unknowing parts of themselves. So the world is made up pretty evenly of all of them, and that's what makes it interesting. It would be actually pretty boring, or not get things done, or lack safety and security, or have no peace, or no novelty if we didn't have them all in there.
I love that. And I love that you came from a place of like, this is them at their best and these are like some cringe, and that none is better than the other because they're all so needed. When I'm looking at this in the sense of like business, I'm like, oh, okay, so the 7s are the business starters, the other ones, they're the ones that are perfecting the systems, getting everything in place. Like I can see a different piece of how to run a business and why you would almost need like all the pieces to the puzzle, which is really, really cool. And even just thinking about life, how much they're all needed. I've got a question though, because some of them feel kind of similar. And so when you're talking about like the 2 and the 9, how do you make that like divide between the 2 and the 9? Because I was like, oh my goodness, I think one of my family is that one. Oh wait, maybe he's that. Like it's so similar. How do you differentiate between the ones that are pretty close?
So that's why I always say don't go along with what the assessment tells you, because you're not necessarily, you need to do the work. And this podcast is just an introduction, right? It's not going to be the whole gig for anybody. There's tons of wonderful resources out there, some wonderful books you can dig further in, but you have to do the work and be honest with yourself. And what I say is that 2s and 9s, yes, they're both feeling centric. They're both people oriented. Here's the big difference. 2s are relationship centric. 9s are group centric. What I mean about that is 2s really go deep with the relationship and can master many of them, juggle many of them, right? But each relationship matters. Being needed and appreciated by each person matters. Another little key to 2s is 2s have very strong opinions. They don't lack a stance. They're quick to give it to you. They're quick to give you advice. 9s, on the other hand, tend a group more than the individual relationship. They, and where the relationships give 2s energy, they get energy from spending all that time together. Nines actually need recovery time after being with people. They need to go quiet, and because they give so much of their energy to keep the peace, they're oftentimes exhausted and they don't have strong opinions. They're actually some of the most wonderful listeners because they will listen and just let you kind of figure it out yourself. And they'll support, they're amazing supporters, but they're not ones to tell you what to do. So oftentimes with nines and twos, I say to people, so where do you see yourself? Are you more the peacemaker? Are you more the strong kind of relationship oriented? You have opinions, you love being needed and appreciated, you want to be around people all the time.
Oh, that's an interesting difference. I love that. Yeah. So fascinating. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So you talked about a few free tests and you talked about some books that are good to dive into. Do you mind just mentioning what those are? And then I will plug them into the show notes.
So off the top of my head, I'm going to get the names wrong, but I will share them with you and you'll plug them into the show notes.
Perfect.
And once you get going, you'll find there's lots of free resources. So, and then there's people like me who you can work with and figure that out. And I'll have an online course this fall. So that will be really exciting in Enneagram. And what I would say to you is whatever you choose to do, whether you go a self-discovery path, working with someone, whatever it is that it is a study and a practice. So this is a beautiful introduction. A book would be a lovely introduction. A course would get you going and make you do the work, right? Is because the more I've been doing this for years, and it is such a go-to tool. And my clients, it's such a wonderful tool for kind of sorting through the chaos of life and giving them a rational place to stand. Oh, I understand why my spouse and I got into an argument over that. I understand why parenting my child, with oldest child went great and with youngest child it like blew up. You're like, how did that happen? I did the exact same thing. You are you all the way through. We're just not communicating to ourselves. And business teams, you hit the nail on the head. I just was working with a contractor and, I want to complement my strengths, really fill in for my not as strong parts, right? Like whether we want to call them weaknesses or blind spots or what, but I'm not blind to them. I know what they are. Like I need a one to look at all my work and find all my typos because I go fast and furious and, leave out, oh, big deal. I left an E off or an A off or, went on instead of. And I'm like, that doesn't really bother me, but that's not good in business, right? So I need someone to complement that skill who has that eagle eye, who goes a little slower, and that's their skill set. And you'll notice that if you're a leader of a team, you'll sometimes be like, that was a great meeting. That was a terrible meeting. What happened? Know your audience. That's why oftentimes I work with boards or groups at work in which they're trying to figure out how to best work together. They have a common goal, right? Whatever the goal of that segment of the office is, whether it's more money or lowering costs or outward facing, surveys back or whatever it is. But they're not the same people, and people don't tend to all hire all the same people because then you're missing segments. But that means you don't receive news the same. You don't respond quickly. 3s, 7s, and 8s are going to be your quickest, strongest responders. They process quickly. They can engage quickly. 5s, 9s, they need time, but they have a lot to contribute. And if you know that, right? I mean, I have meetings where people hold their number up. They put it in front of them on a placard and it says 3, 9, 2. And then you can cater what you're saying to be best received. So it is a study and a practice, right? The more you put it into play, the more it gives back to you, the more you're going to want to do it.
Oh, I love this. I'm just thinking about how knowing this, because I just have been introduced to this in the past month or two. So I am newbie to the Enneagram. I pretty much know my type, my husband's, and that's it. But listening to it, it's exciting because it's I'm a 7, so everything's exciting. But it's exciting because I'm like, oh, if you know it, I could see how your family, how you communicate with your kids. There's so many of my friends who, felt like they were unloved or didn't receive love the way that they needed it. And if you know what your children's type is, you're able to fill in those gaps, not really change who you are, but at least know what your kids need and you can address it. 2 of my kids, I'm trying to decide if they're the helper or the 9, but they are so slow moving. And I have to okay, Stephanie, don't rush them, because as soon as I start to rush them, they what? Instant bawling. They're still 4 and 5, so they're younger, but, crying, they can't handle it. They hate that feeling of being moved quickly, faster than they're ready. And so it's so good. And then on a business end, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is good about knowing who you need to hire, who you need to bring onto your team. That's kind of the place where I'm at in my business. I've done a lot of contract work, but I'm looking at a place to where I'm now getting ready to start hiring teammates. And it's like, okay, who do I hire? What type of personality would really strengthen me? I do not want another 7. We do not need another dreamer on this team, so looking outside of yourself and filling in those gaps, how that is so helpful. And then I teach courses in a membership site, and I'm like, oh man, that makes so much sense of why I put questions out there and it takes so long to get, or at least for me, it feels like so long to get questions back, but really they just need time to think. And so I'm like, man, this really, in business, in life, this is such a helpful tool. And I love how you described it as a tool. I'm blown away.
Yeah, it's a tool in your toolkit, and it starts with self-awareness. Who am I? What are my strengths? What are my superpowers? And hey, where am I challenged? And it doesn't mean necessarily fill in with your challenges. Just understand how to get back to your good place. And then second, it's a relationship management tool. It's a communication management tool. It's other awareness in the relationships that matter most. And you just hit the nail on the head, right? Your family, your work colleagues, maybe community, maybe whatnot. But a little bit goes a long way. And it's that whole idea we've all heard, right? The golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. Well, that's flawed, right? If you can figure out how they want to be treated, you're getting so much further in a much more pleasant way. I too, fast mover, have one child of the 3 that is slower. And I actually had to learn to count in my head. So a very practical application, nothing fancy. We've all heard this before, but I actually could tie it to my type and his type, and therefore it was meaningful, right? It's not a one size fits all. It's what works in that relationship. And just actually counting to myself, which feels forever to count to 10. But if I count to 10, I actually get a reply out of him, which is from an honest place of where he is, instead of me talking over him or at him, and he just shuts down further. I get more frustrated. We didn't actually accomplish anything, which for a 3 is a nightmare. I want to accomplish something. I want to move the needle forward. And I realize if that's what I want to do, and you don't love more than you love your children, right? You might be fond of your work colleagues, but you love your children, right? If you can make it work there, you can make it work with work colleagues, right? People that you're managing, or even who's managing you.
I love that. So I'm curious, when you come to the Enneagram, how do you like to teach people to use it? Do you teach it more on with your family, or do you teach it more in, this is how it's going to help you in your business? What angle do you teach your clients, and you're going to teach in your course, on how to use the Enneagram as a tool?
So I actually teach all of it. It just depends on my audience, right? So I am a 3, so I can pivot based on my audience. So I have different courses in person. I've been generally in person till COVID, and now I'm becoming more of an online teacher. But I teach it based on what the need they hired me for. So when I'm working with professionals, I teach it professionally and always touch on personal. And when I work with individuals, groups, and also families a lot. So I just did last week a client who I worked with her extensively. I worked with her family. She's got 4 teenage sons. And then I know you thought I had a lot at 3. She's got 4 teenage sons. And then she had me do her adult siblings. She's from a big family. She's the youngest, and her mom. And it was magical. Here they had decades under their belts of, people get into patterns. We all live patterns, for good or bad, right? We live patterns. Understanding and dissecting these patterns so that we can take the good and then improve upon it and let the stuff that has not served us go. It's like, totally different worlds. All of a sudden it makes so much sense. And it was amazing to work with people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then her mom who's 80. And there were tears of joy because suddenly there was a new understanding of each other, and they didn't have to go the way that it wasn't working so well. My online stuff initially is geared toward working moms. So it is teaching how to first recognize self, and then both the examples and the exercises are around with family and then with colleagues or leadership.
Oh, I love that. Man, when you were talking about that family, I just got chills. I can't even imagine how much healing could take place knowing and understanding each other and realizing oh, you really did love me this whole time. It was just way different than what I thought. I just, oh my goodness, now that makes me want to go. I'm the oldest of 6 kids.
Oh,
And my husband's the second oldest of 8 kids. So we both come from pretty big families. And part of me is like, oh my gosh, I want to do this with everybody, because that I could just see, like, just knowing them and thinking of them, it would be so helpful, I think, and so healing. And so I love that you teach people this, because, oh my goodness, the amount of healing that could take place and moving forward, understanding, oh yeah, that's why, because you're motivated from this, like, seriously chills. I love it so much.
I would add to that, as you just put it, the healing comes because you realize it's misunderstanding and miscommunication. It's not poor intentions, right? We've all heard the adage that, we're a starring role in our own lives. So of course we see everything through our perspective. And so when you enter a relationship, you see it through your scope, through your focus, right? But that's not where the other person is. Their filter is theirs. And so when you realize that you can honestly step back and say, my intentions are good, right? I communicate this way. I'm learning this about you. I either know I need to slow down. I have to provide more information. I need to ask things as questions rather than stating it as a statement. I, need to make sure that if you're a 1, that I've done my, realize that that's the right way to do it, or that's the best way it could possibly be done. If you're 5, I've done my data. If you're 6, I realize that you're worried about safety and security. If you're 9, I have to give you time to hear your opinion. You're so busy keeping the peace. And there's generally one of those in every big family, right? Who just seems like the person who will take the middle seat or go where everybody else decides and never really seems to have an opinion, but they probably do. But their conflict avoiders was so untenable that they just left it alone. But boy, do you give them, a platform and a love, really, to let them be heard and be involved in the decisions, right? So it's each of those places. Or 3, like me, feeling like, okay, I do everything for everybody, right? Woe is me, right? I'm like, everybody asked me to do it because I'm so capable, right? You can diffuse a lot of those things and get that out and say, hey, it was just miscommunication. It was not poor intention.
Okay. So that brought up 2 questions for me. I loved it. One is, how do you be able to, like, talk and explain and realize this thing is about the other types of Enneagram? So you're like asking them more questions or asking how they're doing, without losing yourself in who you are. So being married to a 1, it's so funny because he's a perfectionist and he's always telling me to lower my expectations. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? To my expectations? What expectations? And so it's so fun. It's like miscommunication so many times. But what I want to know is, like, how do you pay attention and make sure other people are getting what they need without losing yourself in the process? Because I feel like I did that my first few years of becoming a mom. And then my other question is, how do you overcome those cringeworthy parts of ourselves? I know for me, I just ignore it. I'm like, what cringeworthy stuff? And it's probably different for every type. But if there's like an overall way, like, how do you look at those with 1, for me, it would be actually taking time to look at them. Or 2, I know for my husband, it would be like not getting so bogged down that that's all he can think about. And he's just like melting away in depression. So it's like, how do you overcome them without getting stuck there and still being able to move forward?
Okay, so I'm going to take them in reverse order because everyone's probably thinking of the second question. So you say, okay, if my cringeworthy parts, I'll just be like, oh, what cringeworthy parts? That's because you're a 7. 7s avoid the unpleasantry. So it seems unpleasant, right? So I'm not going to look at those. But actually the best way is, and this is going to apply to both questions, but starting the second one, is humor. It is so good to not take ourselves so seriously, and those of others in those interactions, is finding a way to make fun a little bit. Like one of the things on a 3 says cuts corners. And I'm like, oh, excuse me, I don't cut corners. But sometimes in my rush, right, to get done and get to the next thing, I probably wouldn't do it up to the standards of a 1. Right? So I could be cutting corners. I'm looking for the most efficient and effective way forward. So that would be my way of like, okay, all right, I should look at that. And where does it matter? It doesn't matter the same across everything, right? Where does it matter? Certain things we do are not so important. Certain things we do are hugely important, whether it's in parenting or in work, right? We have to put our best foot forward. For me to put something out that has a bunch of has a bunch or maybe even one typo could be the difference of me getting the work or not, right? That matters. So yes, I can go through it multiple times and slow myself down, and most of the time I'll catch what it is. Or I can figure out, hey, I need to complement my skills. I need to hire someone who that is their expertise. And that has worked a lot, but I have to own it first, right? Oh, too quick and could cut corners, need to slow down and, let others catch up. Those are things that sometimes don't feel great, but I'm okay with it. When you have that self-awareness, when you do the work, it's actually so empowering. You realize that those moments where something might be your challenge is really your strength in your ability to recognize it. So going easy on self, realize everybody has it. Everybody, all 9 archetypes have it. All 7.8 billion people in this world have it. We all have cringeworthy, challenged areas. The truth is, just don't live there. If you can recognize it, you can move out of it. And if you can recognize it with self-compassion and a little humor, it goes a lot further. Okay, question number 1, you asked, how do you not lose yourself, right, in trying to communicate and interact to serve others, right? If I know that you're a 7 and I'm a 3, or when I'm interacting with my husband's a 1 and I'm a 3, if I'm changing myself, I think that was the question you're asking, so it's a more positive interaction for you, do I lose myself? So I'm actually not advocating anybody change themselves. You are who you are all the way through. From birth to death, we are ourselves. We can be more skilled versions of ourselves. So in interactions with a 7, I know that if I want you to get going and doing it, I have to spice it up a little bit. It can't just all be diligence and self-responsibility. Like, it has to be of interest. Look at your face, right? It has to be of interest, right? So saying like, hey, let's do this today, or couple it in something like, let's do something, whether it's in professionally, right? Or you're dealing with a child that's a 7, right? Like, hey, let's go to the reservoir and paddleboard this morning, but you got to write thank you notes this afternoon, and then you have this. How do you want to break them up? Or do something of responsibility, then something fun, then something of responsibility. In work, the same way. Have a creative brainstorming dreamer session in between the 2 different responsibilities. And then have another one. Just couple it. It's almost like the Oreo that goes on and on. Just, and then you'll find that you can do it. And so I know that interacting with you, right? And if it's a 1, I know I need to give them time to get it done, but sometimes I also need to help them not take themselves so seriously. So with my husband, I'm like, oh, okay, we're having a 1 moment. You do realize that we're human, so we're flawed to begin with. There's no such thing as perfection, right? And does this really matter? Like, help give perspective. Does this really matter? If it's a 6, let me hear your concerns. Let's talk through them. Let's see if they're valid. If they're a 5, tell me what you learned from all that research. If you're a 4, tell me how we can make this special. What makes you feel like an individual? If you're a 2, okay, I'm going to give time and I'm going to make an emotional payment. My mom is a 2. She doesn't want me to go so fast. She wants me to ask how she is, and she wants me to listen for 10 full minutes about everything that's happened to her since yesterday, right? If you're a 9, it's actually, I should check in. How are you, right? How are you today? Tell me how you really feel. Do you need support? Right? So that is actually really powerful. I'm not losing myself. As myself, I know I have things I want to get done, but I'll get the better out of you if I honor who you are while still being myself all the way through.
Oh, thank you so much for explaining that and going into that, because I feel like that's so, so important. So thank you. Oh my goodness. My mind is like, this is so cool. Another question. How do you get it? Like, you talked about that family where you sat down and like helped them figure out what Enneagram number they are and how it promoted that healing, and they were able to. I know there's people listening to this right now that are like, I want that. How would you say is the best way to go about having that family conversation? Like, do you just do it at the next family reunion? Like, guys, let's take this Enneagram test. Do you hire someone to come in and like, let's just have fun? Like, how do you go about doing that with your family when I feel like with kids, it's a lot easier, but with, your adult siblings, your adult parents, I can imagine there'd be a lot of resistance. A lot of people who say, well, I know a lot of people I know will say stuff like, how can a test figure me out? You know, and so I like that you called it a motivational tool, not a personality, because a lot of people are like, you can't put me in a box, where I'm like, that's me all the way. Like, I don't get offended. I'm like, woo, someone knows who I am. But it's funny how some people are like, like, you can't figure me out that fast. And so how do you take adult siblings, adult parents, and really sit down and have this conversation, or take this test and have that moment where you can understand each other better, and maybe even open up a conversation of like, of healing, of like, wow, okay, this makes sense. This is how you made me feel. Wow, I'm so grateful I now know who you are, and honor each other and come from that place. But anyways, how do you start that conversation?
Generally, it starts with someone who is using it in their life. One of the siblings or adult parent, right, is using it in their life. And they're like, I think this would be so fantastic. And sharing just a couple reasons why. One, it's helped me, like, share a personal thing. It's helped me in parenting your grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. It's helped me in my relationship with my spouse. You know, we're enjoying. At the end of the day, we all want more enjoyment and less stress. Right? We're not sure how to get there. And oftentimes, as I said earlier, we all live patterns. We kind of go down the path of what we know. We might not like it, but it seems less scary than what we don't know. So usually when I work with a family, it's because somebody has familiarity. So like with your family of 6 siblings and your parents, right? You're like, I did this. It's amazing. It's helped in our relationship. I would love to do this with all of you. It's, you know, and I would give some talking points. Again, there I would say you probably want a neutral. You want a third party neutral. You want someone who is skilled in teaching it, that there's no judgment zone. Because it's so important to get something out of it that people actually feel that they're welcome, whatever number they are, and wherever they are in that number, whether they're skilled or they're really challenged right now, or somewhere in between. And, or maybe there's more skilled in their spousal relationship and their work relationship, but they really struggle in this adult sibling relationship. People have years of baggage, right? I mean, everybody's got baggage, and it's just how, you know, whether it's a steamer trunk or a little carry-on case, but everybody's got something, and, you know, is opening it up. So I would say the real power is having someone who, yes, shares a little link and says, okay, take that, share that with me. Doesn't hold them to that number, doesn't share it with the others. Does a teaching to begin with that introduces them, like we did in this call, to the, you know, the 9 different ones, a little more in depth with more examples, so people start to recognize themselves and their siblings. Now, these are people that have known each other for decades, if not, you know, half a century, and they recognize each other. They recognize each other in the cringe-worthy usually. Where do you go when stressed? Your siblings will recognize you. You'll recognize them, right? Your parents will probably start to. And it's a change in the relationship, especially as your parents are getting older and you and your siblings are the, you know, the young adults to midlife adults. They're like, oh, we have to care for mom, dad. It actually really helps in that change of relationship as well. But I would say whether it's, I think you want a coach. And the reason is because everybody needs a neutral. You need the person that interprets the answers and supports everybody across the, so in this, we went through them all. They all self-recognized. They all said why they self-recognized. They all claimed a superpower, so everybody felt empowered. Everybody claimed a blind spot. They made a pledge to one another. I interpreted that and said, so this is what you're saying. I mean, there were tears. It was fantastic. And then you probably want to do, if possible, a couple parts. You don't want to just do one and done. You know, do one, let them learn, let them sit with it. Couple weeks, month later, do another, and then do a third. Because again, it's a practice. And the more you practice it, the better you feel about yourself and the relationship with others.
Oh, I love that. I'm over here like, hire Nicole for your next family reunion party. Like, I love it. Oh my goodness. And I love that you said having that neutral person, because I'm just thinking back, you know, I'm a huge believer in couples therapy and, you know, making sure that you guys are on the same page. And I loved having that person who could take what I was thinking, explain it to my husband in a way that I never could, and vice versa. Having that neutral person who just loves both of you and doesn't have a side is so important. So I love that you touched on that. So I'm like, so good. So good. I love it. Okay. I'm looking at, okay. So we need to get wrapping up. This has been so good and so exciting. Thank you so much for teaching us, answering all of my questions. Do you have any last words that you would like to tell my audience before we play the Dream Makers game?
I would just wish everyone, if you're in a place where you feel like you could use some support, reach out to me or look up some free resources that we
Oh no.
practical.
Nicole. Okay, say that again. You froze.
Oh,
so it went to reach out to me and then froze. Okay. So sorry, that's probably
it says my internet connection is unstable. Is it okay now? Let me.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So I would like to encourage everyone, it's at any time, but especially these challenging times, there are wonderful tools available. Do not let learning something new or potentially a price tag, because if you're willing to do the work, there are lots of free tools. And why would you hire someone like me? You hire someone like me because they do the work for you and get you going quicker. But don't let that be a roadblock. I know these are tough times. I'm happy to chat with people to get them started, but there are wonderful free tools. Check my website. There's lots of other websites, but do something that empowers you, especially to all the moms out there. You're juggling all your roles, probably with less support than you've ever had. Schools are unknown. These are stressful times. Find out. Yes, you all have superpowers. We all have superpowers. We also all have challenges. Figure out ways to smooth those over and know that little tweaks, these do not have to be life-changing things. It's not like you have to burn the house down and rebuild it. You're actually just little tweaks are going to give you so much less anxiety and stress and so much more productivity in the relationships and business, in family, and give you overall higher life satisfaction. And it's not far away. It's really just 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Pledge that to yourself. And I was listening to something today, and this made so much sense to me, is we as women, and maybe individuals as whole, men too, is that the big buzzword today is self-care. Everybody take good self-care, right? Doing this is self-care. Investing in yourself and knowing yourself, that's self-care because it's empowering and you can play off of it every day. A massage or new facial oil or fancy new shoes or whatever it is, a nice candle, that's self-soothe. That soothes you, that makes you happy for a few minutes, nothing wrong with it, but the investment is much better off in the care of your whole person. So put the time in. That's what I would leave everybody with. Put that time in.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You just so much gold. And I have never heard the difference between self-soothe and self-care, but that makes so much sense. Of self-soothing is taking care of like the temporary moment. And then the self-care is really diving in and taking care of yourself as a whole. Thank you for saying that. I've never heard that before. You just blessed my life so much throughout this entire podcast. Ending with that. Oh my goodness. So good. Can you share with my audience all the places that they can reach out, connect with you, get a hold of your amazing stuff in your course? Tell us all the things.
Absolutely. So the name of my coaching, okay, this might not have been a great name, but I love it. It's called Sailors, like a sailor on the high seas, SAILORS, Sweet Life. Sailor is my 3-year-old golden retriever, and he lives a sweet life. And that's the goal. He finds joy in every day, in every way, and in the moments. And he teaches us all, and I wish that for everyone. So sailorsweetlife.com. On Instagram and Facebook, just at Sailor Sweet Life. LinkedIn would be my name, Nicole, and it actually looks like Sewell, SEAWELL, but it actually pronounced, I used to say rhymes with drool, Sewell, but it actually rhymes with jewel. I'm a jewel. I had a friend tell me that. She's like, why don't you say jewel? I'm like, jewel. So Nicole Sewell, but it looks like Sewell. So you can see I've got like a seafaring thing going here, my sailor and Sewell. But yeah, you find me on those. I love to chat. I am a 3. I'll reply to you quickly. I have complimentary opportunities to book a 30-minute exploratory or discovery call with me. I'm happy to do it. Please take advantage. You can see I love to talk about this. My goal is that, we have one life to live. Make it sweet. Don't live in what shoulds and coulds. Just do it. And we do it better with support of others and owning it.
Oh, amen. I love it. Oh my goodness. And tell us about your course real quick too.
Okay. So I will have 2 courses going. The first one will be on Enneagram. So there'll be an opportunity for that, but that will be later in 2020. The first course that we'll be launching is actually based on the science of timing. The idea that focus and time are our most precious resources. which they are. So oftentimes people think it's money, but it's not. It's time. And where your time goes, where your focus goes. And there's this beautiful body of research and science that tells us that we each have an individual chronotype, and how we use our time in the day, week, month, years lead us to certain solutions, especially for us moms, jugglers, how to break out our days to get the most in each of those different analytical, creative, collaborative, restorative times of day to get the best out of us. I mean, we can all think at times when we tried to do something and we just failed, and then we try to get at a different time the next day and it was like a breeze. There's a reason for that. It's actually not accidental. And so working a lot of mindset stuff and using that science and procrastination, say goodbye, it suddenly is so easy to do. That will be available late in the summer and again in the fall. And it's just a wonderful opportunity. And there'll be there'll be live Zooms every week. So allowing people to get the benefits of group coaching in those courses.
Oh my goodness, so cool. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing us. I cannot wait. Everybody who's listening, all these links are going to be in the show notes. If you're freaking out, didn't write it down fast enough because you're driving, don't worry, they're in the show notes. So thank you, Nicole. This has been such a blessing. Thank you for coming on. I've appreciated it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.